Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin, and today I'll be discussing Ben-Hur from 1959. And this is the first film within our Christmas series. I felt I should pick a film that isn't just about, Christmas cheer and whatnot, but also about Jesus, because that's the reason why we celebrate, right? So, anyway, let's get started with the plot synopsis from Critic List. In 26 AD, Judah Ben-Hur, a Jew in ancient Judea, opposes the occupying Roman Empire. Falsely accused by a Roman childhood friend turned overlord of trying to kill a Roman governor, he is put into slavery and his mother and sister are taken away as prisoners. All right, so now let me get into my thoughts on the plot. All right, so the plot, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a really good story and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Though I will say, I picked this because it is a movie that ends and talks about the life of Christ. I do think that segment is way too long. It's about 40 minutes after, I'm going to spoil it, but after the character of Masala, who's kind of the main antagonist, dies. So we kind of just meander a bit for the remainder of the film. If that sequence were trimmed down a bit to maybe 5-10 minutes, it would have been fine. I just felt it was way too long without having our main antagonist. So I have a big issue with that. But all in all, it's a good plot. It's based off of a book rather that I've never read. I've been curious about. And there's also a 1920s film from Fred Niblo. I think he directed it. I've been wanting to see it, but I haven't checked it out yet. So I think that's going to be one I'll do for the silent commentary series. I haven't really decided yet. But anyway, I like the story. I just felt that the last act of it went on a little bit too long, especially because the main villain is dead, right? The main antagonist to the story is no longer around. I think they could have done it better. Now, like I said, I've never read the book or seen other versions of it, so I don't know if this is just true to that. I just would have preferred that the film didn't go much longer after he was gone. So anyways, those are my thoughts on that. That's why I give the plot a 4 out of 5. All right, let's move on to the acting. So like I was mentioning, Charlton Heston, he's the best actor overall in the film. He plays Ben-Hur on the left there. And then Stephen Boyd, he plays Masala. He's okay as an actor. I will say, while their dynamic is the most interesting, I do think that if we're going to compare a similar film, 10 Commandments, I do think the dynamic between Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner as Ramses is much, much better than this one here. I don't know. I thought they were fine overall. They're definitely the best. I like the Roman guy who took care of Ben-Hur. I believe that was Jack Hawkins, I want to say, from... You may know him from Lawrence of Arabia. I will say the weakest acting comes from the acting, and that's his mother and sister, Charlton Heston's character. I thought they were kind of meh. But they're not the real focal part of the story. It's definitely Charlton Heston and Stephen Boyd. They're definitely the focus. And that's why I wish that they trimmed down the last 40 minutes, because as mediocre or meh of an actor Stephen Boyd was, he was definitely missing. There's definitely that antagonistic feeling gone. And maybe it's the antagonisticness of trying to find the sisters, or the sister and the mother. I'm not sure, but I just like their dynamic more. But yeah, overall the acting was good for the most part, and that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5. All right, let's move on to set design. So pictured there is William Wyler in the middle, in front of one of the many sets of the film. I thought the set design is amazing. 5 out of 5. Probably one of the highlights of the movie overall. The chariots, the statues, the set pieces, the ocean one, the one where the actual chariot scene takes place. All of it looks so good. I know later this year, this is being recorded in December of 25. I look forward to seeing what the 4K of this looks like. I think the set design and all that's going to look even better because it's real for the most part. If you look at a lot of the behind the scenes, most of it is real buildings, real huge set pieces that they really built, and some miniatures too for sure. But it looks amazing. 5 out of 5. All right, let's move on to cinematography. So same thing, 5 out of 5. I think the best sequence cinematically is the chariot scene. The reason for it, um, it's pretty much real. They really did have a chariot race. Now, how much of it was, uh, stunt doubles and Charlton Heston and Stephen Boyd? That is certainly up for debate. But you can't deny how incredible this sequence is. They've got real horses, real chariots. It's a huge arena that they're going around in circles in. Incredible. They even crash some stuff. They have people and horses flying around. It looks amazing. And again, can't wait to see the 4K. I think another sequence that I don't think is talked about enough, though, is the scene on the ship. It also looks amazing with all those actors in it and they're rowing and whatnot. That's a huge set piece as well. Just overall, and like the angles and stuff they have, it overall looks amazing. Love the camera work of it. It really shows the scope and grandness of the film when we see a lot of the wide shots, like I was mentioning, the chariot scene. So it looks amazing. And with all the extras filling it out and all the amazing costumes, all of that, it just looks so good. 5 out of 5. All right, let's move on to the music. So the music, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect because to me, it's not as memorable as that like of the Ten Commandments or even later films like Lawrence of Arabia. But it does set the tone. It is very epic and powerful. So it does elevate the scenes, especially the ones, and I was kind of harping on it at the beginning, but I will say the scenes with The Life of Christ, that music's amazing. Especially, he's following him around and he happens upon the Sermon on the Mount or when he's at the crucifixion, all of that. Amazing music. But I would be lying if I didn't say I couldn't distinguish it from, say, Ten Commandments or other epic big movies like this. And maybe I just need to hear it more. I just wouldn't be able to distinguish it, if I'm honest. And so with that, I gave it a 4 out of 5. All right. So now let's get to my Criticalist score. So overall, my Criticalist score is a 4.4 out of 5, which is an 88%. And so now let me break down my overall score here. Graphic language, none. Violence, there's a bit, some blood and deaths, especially during like the chariot scene, but it's very, very tame. But it's still, crazy stuff that happens. Nudity, sexual content, there's just some low-cut dresses. Again, it's very, very tame. Political bias, none. Family friendly, yes. Although I don't know if you could watch it all with your kids in one setting. It is, I think it's pretty close to about 4 hours, maybe 3.5 hours. It's a fairly long film, so you may have to divide it up into segments. And then entertainment value, it was fun at the beginning, but I will say that last 40 minutes kind of drags a bit, and I wish it was a bit shorter. You definitely feel the length of the film by the end there. And so overall, would I recommend this movie? Yes, I would. I like Charlton Heston. He's really great in this one. I love the chariot scenes. I will say I wish the main antagonist, Masala, was still around by the end, and maybe they kind of switch things around. Again, I don't know how the book is set up, rather. I've never read it. So, I don't know. I don't think he should have been killed off so quickly. And I will say, as amazing as the last 40 minutes are, because it's the life of Christ and all of that, and the reason why I even picked this movie, I do think that to the overall story, it kind of meanders on a bit. And so I think trimming it down might have made it better. Not sure, but I think it would have been much, much stronger. Because I compared to Ten Commandments, which I believe Ten Commandments is longer, but it felt so concise. It worked really well. They had a really good, first half and second half, because the first half was like the beginning of the life of Moses. The second half is him leading him out of the Israelites out of Egypt. This movie kind of has that. I think it's better, though, in the Ten Commandments, for sure. even though totally different directors and whatnot, I still think that was a better epic, if that makes sense. But anyways, those are my thoughts overall on Ben-Hur from 1959. Again, I recommend it. Please check it out. And I really do look forward to that 4K when it releases. I'll make sure to have a link to that once it does drop. But with that, this has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. Take care.